Hello and welcome to Priority Parenting Session 8. In a previous session, we took you all the way back to your childhood. And yes, we have some fond memories of what we did and things we liked and disliked in our childhood. In fact, after the session, I went home and started speaking to my wife. We have this evening ritual of a walk. And I said, what is your fondest memory of your childhood and the ugliest one? And of course, one of the areas she really missed was her waiting for her father to pick up, and he would be late most of the time. And that really set the parameters for me that sometimes things we do, of course, the father has been an amazing person in each of our life, but these small memories, it might be a few days or might be just a short period of time, but dads play such a big life in shaping in who we are. And then we spoke about being a caterpillar parent, or especially mother who tries to juggle everything, and we said your children cannot be at the center of your life, your priorities must be. Today we've taken a lovely, sensitive, delicate, fragile topic, but a strong topic that can move mountains. It's faith. You see, as a child, the world is very concrete for him or her. What he sees exists, and what he doesn't see doesn't exist. As he starts growing older, he starts to have a sense of there is more to life than he can see. Many young people, boys and girls, at the age of 4 and 5 begin to comprehend that there is a spiritual element in the universe. But since the young mind are still unable to grasp the complex abstract concepts, they blend the abstract with the visible. And yes, I'm looking at faith in their life. The amazing thing about faith, as we said, faith grows, faith increases and decreases. There are days you'll have a lot of faith, and there are days you'll be faithless. In fact, I joke around nowadays, after certain episodes, I become less religious and more faithful. It's my endeavor to be closer, and as a family, that's what is important. You see, your child, your son, your daughter will form opinions about God from being in your presence. It's not that he doesn't believe, but that for him the very idea stems from you, from home. If you smile frequently, then he may decide that God is friendly. If you are trustworthy, patient, kind, then he starts thinking that God is too. His impressions of God can be positive and negative, fluctuating with your mood from day to day. So if you have a particularly sharp temper, he may believe that God can be mean. And that is what you don't have to do. This is something that I keep saying, his idea of God is shaped by your behavior. As a child, of course in the mythology we know that children, they're visual. Boys are more visual people than girls are. So they picture God as somebody, as a huge flowing beard, the kind of mythology we've seen. But then as they grow older, they realize God is not a gender specific thing. In fact, according to the Old Testament, Yehovah is neither male nor female. And over time, your son or daughter will realize God isn't that big guy with a long beard, or he is actually someone whose resemblance he sees in you. And there is a lot of faith-based scriptures that say that God created man in his own image. And what I'm trying to say is that image of God will be from your perspective, your behavior, your identity of what you take on is what God will be for him. So that is where God stands. Put God first. God is not just an idea about religion. It's much more than their being about identifying themselves, who they are and what they want to do. In fact, research is amazing. I can point out some really, really detailed research which says more than 70% of teenagers who are devoted to God say they are very happy and satisfied. Teenagers, children who are religious have a deeper connection to faith, are people who get into less problem with drugs, marijuana, into teenage rebellion, as in abortions, and this is the kind of families we want our children to be. So I'm not just trying to make a case out of faith here. I'm saying faith as a very important personality shaper in your life. I love this lovely quote, "Put God first," from Denzel Washington. One of the speeches, he says something very poetic: "Put your slippers under your bed today, so that when you get up in the morning, you may have to be on your knees And while you are there, say a grace. Thank God for all the blessings in your life. That's what I'm trying to say. Appreciate the wonderful thing that has happened in your life. Appreciate your health, your status, your standing, the schools, the luxuries, the things that you are getting, the car you drive. And that is what appreciation you want to put in your child. So what are the lessons in faith overall I'm going to give? Is 3 good lessons, which is be good. You see, mothers are more comfortable talking about God to children than fathers are. Something like, but topics like sex, drug and faith are all so important topics. We spoke about the other part of it. God comes right there. You must be good. So they are seeing you as what God is, the reflection part. Then not just be good, show good. So now when you're trying to be good, as you're driving, you slow down for an old lady crossing the road and you say, thank God we've got a car and we are appreciating that. Or you help somebody in the hospital and say, thank God for the health that God has given me. And slowly you show them with your words, your actions. And finally, do good. As in, you control yourself, you hold your tongue. And you know, there are a lot of areas you take your children to. One of my favorite activities, you put down the religious institutions around and say, okay, where are we going this weekend? It could be the church, the temple, the local mosque. It could be any religious institution. You choose the children to decide where to go, and it could be one of the outing you take your sons and daughters with. Believe me, that's the association they will have. They'll remember as they grow big. As always, what's our great case study here? So I've called a case study Faithless, and I'll slowly change my tone as we talk about. This is a story about the boy called Ken. Ken adored his mother. He was really fond of the mother, and she was a lovely, strong lady. She was a teacher, very religious, and she cared for everything that was breathing, especially if it limped. So you know how a connoisseur she was. She was a naturalist and animal lover. And you see, this is a friendly mother-son relationship. They had elder sister in the house. She was also adored. And Ken was a wonderful boy. But as a young teen, as he grew up, he saw his sister diagnosed with cancer. He became aware of the suffering in the world. And he started questioning God. He questioned if God is real. And number 2, if he's real, why is he not doing anything about the starving, suffering people in the world? And because of this constant questioning and not getting the answers, he left religion and God behind. Now this teenager is becoming a rebel. You see, the mother was a strong religious woman, I said. She did not burn him out of the religion, as most of us might do. She did not cajole him. She did not threaten him. She did not blackmail him to come back to religion. She let him find his way. Let him find the light he was seeking for. And that's very important. You will come across a point where you might want to distance yourself from the faith you're following because of certain things in your life. Give yourself space. Give whoever is there space. The reason for this distance of Ken was his sister. His sister was diagnosed with cancer, and it was hell for his mother. You see, Ken's perspective about suffering was not the sister but the mother. The mother had to go through as much as pain and suffering as the sister did, through the chemos, through the pain, through the loss of hair, through the radiations, and this was something he could not handle. The father could not handle. He fell ill and sick, and he left everything. Now Ken was really, he loved his sister, but he loved his mother even more. And he said, I would never forget the pain in my mother's eye on the last day of my sister's life on earth. So here is this sister, Ken, who sees the sister and the mother. And the mother, one thing he said, I still remember. Now Ken is a father of 2 beautiful kids. He says, my mother did not complain. Odd enough, he watched his mother wrap her arms around his sister, and he told goodbye. And that is when he realized there is much more to this life than just the pain and suffering you see. And Ken said, my mother taught me the way to God again. You see, without wailing and moaning and complaining, she said, I accept because hope she has lived her life and she's going to a better world. You see, at some point in her life, each one of us wonder about the afterlife. Perhaps not so much about this wonderful scientist I love, Stephen Hawking, who said that, he says something that heaven is a fairy tale for people who are afraid to die. I don't know where Sir Stephen Hawking is, but believe me, I think afterlife gives us a lot of comfort. And that is what faith is. Faith is a guide. It gives you something to hope for. It gives you something to hang on for. To your traumas, to your suffering, to your problems, to your challenges. You know there has to be an end. There has to be light at the end of the tunnel. You know that, and that is what faith does. So don't stop believing. Believe, and you will overcome one day. So as I close my concept of faith and faithfulness in ourselves and our children, I would like to give you some stories. One lovely story, as always we end up with something that will really make you think about the existence of God. Henry was an 8-year-old boy, and he met with a near fatal accident. The mother was not in the car, and as soon as she learned about the accident on the phone, mother ran, only to see Henry in a coma in an intensive care unit. The mother had thought that she lost Henry many times during those weeks. The weeks turned into months, as if the life was never ending. The mother did not want to lose Henry because she had lost her parents as a young child, and she said, if Henry is lost, I'll lose my mind. It's during this stay, Linda, the mother, she started praying out. She said, I never really knew if God was real or not, but I was desperate. I didn't know what to do or where to turn to. I just poured my heart out to God and asked for help. And then Linda said she asked others to pray. And believe me, this was something she did not believe in, a miracle, but that's what happened. She believed God heard her desperation and answered the prayers, because Henry came out of the coma, the ICU, and Henry went home. A word was so distant from the hospital she's been with. Of course, with some minor memory losses and some speech therapy session he'll have to take. You know, Linda wanted to do everything. She wanted Henry to go ski, do baseball, go to soccer camp. Perhaps she said to herself, I was just trying to pretend that the accident never happened. But she said, during the entire journey, I learned 2 of the greatest lessons of my life. And I said, what were those lessons? The first lesson she said she learned was God is there. She said, okay, he's invisible. He's really sometimes not very much there when I need him. But until Henry was in the ICU, I never paid attention to him. And I'll never do that again. I know the force behind me. She found the Jedi, I think, isn't it? And the second lesson that she said is Henry is a gift to me. He's not something I need to show off or shine off. He is my son. He's the apple of my eye, and that makes sense to me. You see, your biggest gifts in this life is your God, the trust you have from Him and your children. And remember what we started with, we are not looking at any kind of gender. It's that invisible force that you don't know, but you understand the presence around. So what I'm going to leave you with, I'm leaving to this beautiful book. The biology of book is a very complex book. If you are among those who would love to read, pick this one up. But there is this national bestseller called The Proof of Heaven. This is Dr. Alexander's book, and it gives a little peek into afterlife. I've kept it into my spiritual reading because I love to read. I think overall you will understand that put God first is a great lesson to teach your children. Hopefully that's what we will love to do. Thank you so much. Until then, keep the faith and keep listening. Bye-bye.